Hi everyone, NUSensei here. Today I want to cover a quick clarification over a piece of equipment that is frequently misidentified or misnamed by people in discussions, and it kind of perpetuates the misidentification of what this thing actually is. This isn't a direct response to Survival Lily, but the video she released a week ago actually perfectly typifies this misconception.
And today I'm going to do something very unusual. I'm going to shoot my recurve bow with a sight from compound bows. So that's something very unusual. If you do this and you go to a range, people will look at you and think that you're really crazy. So
this is not a compound sight. Compound sights firstly generally have a much more complicated mount. It's usually bigger and bulkier and heavier with many more attachment point options. And more importantly, the key defining feature of a compound sight is that it normally comes without an aperture. The aperture is normally sold separately, and you have many more options in terms of magnification. So you have a very expensive mount and you have an equally expensive aperture or scope that may or may not be adjustable depending on what the scope is designed for. But typically a compound sight is specifically designed to be mounted on compound bows and used with a compound bow. This is not a compound sight, and it wouldn't be crazy if you mounted this on a recurve bow. In fact, if you're shooting a hunting bow like this and you're not shooting a bear bow, people would expect you to be using this. Objectively, what this sight is a multi-pin sight, or multi-pin for you Americans. It's a sight with multiple pins. That's what it is, and it should be sold as a multi-pin sight, and it often is. It's normally labeled as a single pin sight or a 3-pin sight or a 5-pin sight. In terms of categorizing this kind of equipment, it's often sold as a hunting sight because its primary purpose is for hunting. The reason is the multiple pins can be set to different distances, so you can sight for targets at variable ranges. So it's primarily used for hunting. It can be used for target, but there's usually no need to. The single pin adjustable sights are much better, but this is a multi-pin hunting sight. Now the reason why some people might refer to this as a compound sight is that you often do find this on a compound bow. The reason being is that compounds are the preferred bow for hunting. Most people who hunt with a bow will use a compound bow, and compound bows use sights. This is the most common hunting sight. Therefore, some people use compound sight to represent all multi-pin hunting sights. In truth, this kind of sight is more likely to be used on recurves because that's exactly why recurves have the bushings for sights. If you're hunting with sights, this is what you're meant to be using. It's nothing crazy or unusual. Now, if you attach a D-loop and shoot with a release aid, that's a bit more unusual. It can be done. There are advantages and disadvantages, but it's not uncommon and it can be done. Using a sight, however, is not uncommon. Again, this isn't a compound sight. This is a hunting sight. It's a multi-pin sight, and it can be used for any compound or recurve bow because the bushings are the same. And basically speaking, if you are hunting and you're not shooting bear bow, you'll be using the sight. That's normal. Anyway, that's the clarification I wanted to provide. Again, this isn't a shot at Survival Lily. The rest of the video is a nice walk through the 3D course. Just a general reminder that this isn't exclusive to compounds. You shouldn't feel odd for using this on your recurve bow. If you're shooting a hunting bow and you're using a sight, that's the hunting sight. It's not a compound sight, it's a hunting sight or multi-pin sight. Anyway, hope you found this helpful. This is NUSensei, and I'll see you next time.